Hey guys, welcome back to the Espresso Outlet YouTube channel. And today is a day that I've really been looking forward to for quite some time, as I've been wanting to share this new machine with you. So this machine in front of us today, the brand is Wendougee, and this is the model Data S. So the brand Wendougee is probably a company brand that most Americans have not heard of, but the brand has existed in Asian countries since about 2018. And up until this date, their primary focus has been on more commercial equipment. So they've really focused on like 2-group espresso machines for your cafe rather than your home prosumer style machine. But that's changing today with the Data S that we have in front of us. Now, this machine has a lot of tricks under the hood and a lot of things that I've really enjoyed about it, and I'm really excited to share them with you. So let's take a step back and discuss some of the features on this machine. Now, if I'm not answering all your questions today, make sure to drop your questions in the comment below, and we'll try to answer them on future videos, as this isn't going to be the first or the last video on this machine. So let's start off by talking about some of the design features that you're probably a little bit more accustomed to. This machine, it is a dual boiler machine, meaning that it has a boiler that's dedicated for your brew, but it also has a secondary boiler that is dedicated for steam. And I find that to be more desirable for temperature stability, but it's just nice to be able to brew and steam milk at the same time, which is what most people buy a dual boiler for. Now, this is a saturated group head, and if you've not heard that term before, really all that's meaning is that your group head is attached to the brew boiler. And again, why is that desirable? It's going to give that increased level of temperature stability as you're brewing the shot. So you have all that thermal mass. You're not using like the E61s. They use a thermosiphon, meaning that it's just using physics to keep your group head hot. This group head is actually physically attached to your boiler, so it keeps it nice and hot and very stable. Real quick, while we're talking about the group head, it is just a standard 58mm portafilter that it takes. And I found that the basket inside has been great. It is a 21-gram basket by Wendougee. And I usually swap them out for like an IMS or a VST, and I've really liked this basket quite a bit. It does come with one portafilter, and it's a bottomless, which I'm glad that they just said forget the 2-spout or the 1-spout, and the one and only portafilter that comes with it is a bottomless portafilter. Now jumping over to the controls, a lot of machines, they use knobs, but the joysticks are becoming a lot more popular, and this machine, we've gone with the joysticks on it. The joysticks, they are able to go in any direction. Some machines, they just go up and down. Some, they go all directions. I like that these go all directions. And you can see that when we push it down, it will lock into place. And I'm gonna demonstrate the steam power real quick. Tons of steam, tons of dry steam. I'd say it's pretty similar to the commercial machines that I've used. So a lot of steam, especially for your home. You're not gonna run out of steam. It's gonna heat up very quickly. Off to the right, we do have a hot water tap, and you can see it doesn't really sputter out like a lot of these machines. It's just been really nice and clean. I usually use mine if I forget to preheat my portafilter, or I'm doing a quick rinse on my portafilter, maybe need to quickly heat a cup. I always really like having a hot water tap. The last control feature that I'll talk about is this paddle in the middle, and it's just simply a momentary switch. And when you click it down inside the Data machine, you can pre-program a profile, and it doesn't have to be just like a straight flat however many bars profile. It can be one of your fancier programmed profiles. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But you can program one into that paddle. So if you wake up in the morning, you don't want to get out your tablet, you don't want to get out your iPhone and connect it to the machine, which is really easy, and I just leave mine on top. But let's say you don't want to use that. You will have one profile that you're able to pre-program and easily change through the tablet for daily use. So far on this machine, we've talked about design aspects, which you probably see on other brands. Like you can get a saturated group head, you can get a dual boiler, but let's talk about some of the things that make the Data S stand out from some of your other espresso machines. And I'd say that is really the technology that's on the inside of it. So you probably noticed at the beginning of this video, we have this nice tablet sitting on top. And I know question number one is this gonna be some sort of a proprietary tablet or some screen? And the answer is no, this is just an Android tablet from Amazon. This can run either Android OS or iOS. If you have an iPad or an iPhone, it can run either of those operating systems. It does have a Wendougee app from the App Store, and we're probably going to do a dedicated video just specifically on that to show you the ins and outs of this app. So this tablet is just kind of like our user interface that is going to allow the components inside of this smart machine to do some really cool things. And the first thing that makes that possible is the pump that the Data S has in it. Now, a lot of traditional espresso machines are either going to have like a vibratory pump or a centrifugal rotary pump, but neither of those pumps offer a very precise flow rate. Where this machine, what they've chosen is a gear pump. And if you're not familiar with the gear pump, it has two little gears, and what they're known for is their ability to very precisely and repeatedly measure a fluid, which in this case is the water going into your group head. So really cool that they've chosen a gear pump, and this gear pump, it has like an encoder wheel and a closed loop feedback to know exactly how much water is being pushed to the group head. That really opens up the possibilities to have these extremely precise flow profiles that you can create. So jumping back to the tablet, your tablet, you can run it in two different ways essentially. You have one that is going to be a pressure profile priority and one that's going to be a flow profile priority. So this quick example, Reader's Digest version is, let's say your grinder's not dialed in properly and it's running super fast. It has to say, which one is most important to me, the flow rate or the pressure, and it has to choose one or the other. Now, when your grinder is properly dialed in, it matters quite a bit less, but it still has to have one profile to follow. So here's a close-up of the app, and off to the side you can see some of these profiles that I was mentioning. You can go create your own profiles. Some of these I've created, some of them people have shared with me, and some of them came on it. But for example, I mentioned that 9-bar constant. You can see across the top it's pulling a constant 9-bar shot. A curve that I like is this curve 1. It has a nice long pre-infusion, it ramps up, goes full pressure, and does a nice 6-bar for the remainder of the shot. And based off of how it's set up, let's go into edit parameters, you can actually have the total water in, and when you get that output, because of that really precise gear pump, you're going to get almost an identical output every single time. Now, you'll notice 76 milliliters, well, you do have a certain amount of puck saturation, and I've noticed it's very consistent from one profile to the next. So if you're wanting like 35 grams out, I've been doing about 76 milliliters in, because you do have that puck saturation that's not going to come out of the puck when you're completely done. Let's just keep going back. Have a couple different ways that you can run it. You can actually run it off of flow, or you can run it off of pressure. So again, it depends on how you set up your extraction, if you want it to have like a flow rate as a priority or a pressure as the priority. Now at the top, you have a couple of buttons, and these are just more of your everyday user buttons. The M stands for manual, and actually underneath this third button is your settings. And I have the manual, just when you click it, it turns on, it's 9 bars. It doesn't turn off until you click the M again. So that's more your manual button, and it's really nice when you're trying to maybe dial in your grinder. It can be a little bit difficult to dial in a grinder when you have a profile that's all over the place, and you get a little bit frustrated, so it's nice to do a standard just manual 9-bar shot, get your grinder dialed in, and then you can run some sort of a more fancy profile. This next button is just a cleaning button, and you can again go into the parameters and change this, but what's really cool about this is at the end of the day you can throw a blind in, and it's going to run the pump for 5 seconds, it's going to turn it off for 5 seconds, and it's going to do that 3 times. So it's just auto runs it, and it's been absolutely fantastic for keeping my machine clean. I mentioned these are your settings. In the front we have our paddle, as I mentioned earlier on in this video. And if we wanted to bind one of the curves that we've either created or downloaded, we can go into the setting and we can click this bind button. And what that allows us to do is when we wake up in the morning, maybe our tablet's not charged, our phone is missing, who knows, but we still need our coffee, you can run this machine without the tablet. It's going to have that profile pre-programmed into it, and it's going to run when you click that paddle button. The next feature is we can run this machine manually, and this kind of helps us create new flow profiles and play around with this machine. And as you can see off to this side, this slider is for flow, and this side is for pressure. And again, you have to choose one or the other. So if we were to choose the flow rate, when we pull up, you have to click start, it's going to ensure whatever the flow rate is, it's going to ensure that flow rate. Going back, if we just do ensure pressure, it's going to be like pressure profiling. And there we are, we're at 5.8, 8.1, 2, and it's going to follow all of that. Now, when we click end, you're going to have this graph, and you're going to see the actual flow that went through as well as the pressure. And you can actually go in, we're not going to do this in this video, but you can actually go in and modify this graph as well as save it as a new profile. So really handy as you're creating new profiles. You can figure out exactly how many milliliters out that you want. And something that we haven't talked about yet, but this machine is really good at doing extremely long extractions. So maybe you're doing this really long black shots, like over a minute. This machine can do that with extreme precision with this nice flow rate feature. I think the last thing that we're going to hit on today is this is a community. So if we go over here and go to Discover, you'll notice that all of these people are users of the Wendougee Data machine, and they've all decided to share, or not all of them, but many of them have decided to share profiles. Like this person in particular has not shared their profile. So like if I come back to this screen and I select this curve that I like, and click share. I'm not going to go through this, but I can give it a photo and a title and say this is my personal espresso profile that I really enjoy. And when I click share, let's say I have a friend across town, across the country, across the world. If they know my Wendougee username and I've shared this profile, they can go in there and they can download that to their device and use the exact same profile. So it's going to be really cool as this brand evolves. It's already taken off in China really extensively. This is not a machine startup. This brand has been around for a long time. I am going to pull some shots before we wrap this up, but just to reiterate, this is not a startup company. This brand has existed since 2018, so there's no sort of Kickstarter or anything like that. Espresso Outlet is going to be the company that's bringing these to the United States. These are 120 volt machines. I know a lot of people there are worried that it's going to be 220 volt. These are going to be 120 volt and designed for the United States, so that's going to be really exciting. But let's just kind of say enough for today. Let's pull a shot. I'll try to do my best with some milk, and let's just give it a quick try. We'll save the grinder for another day, but this is a pear grinder from Wendougee. It is called the Milo 2. Loved it. We're not going to go into it today. I'll do a complete video on that here soon. But I have 18 grams pre-weighed out. And let's dry off our portafilter. Probably doesn't need it, but let's do a quick WDT just to kind of level things out. Not really breaking up grounds, we're just kind of leveling it out before the tamp. And let's attempt some oat milk real quick. can't do my oat milk very good today. Sorry, guys. So I think this pretty much wraps it up for today. I wanted to introduce the Wendougee Data S, and I feel like we went over a lot of the features, but again, this is just the beginning. So if you have any more questions, you can find them on our website, is Wendougee USA or espressooutlet.com. Wendougee USA is by Espresso Outlet, so there'll be a lot of content on their YouTube channel and Facebook, so make sure to check those out as well. Now, if you have any specific questions that you want answered about this machine, throw them in the comments below, or just let us know what you think about the machine below, as we'll try to do future videos showcasing a lot of those questions and just more about this machine. But for today, I appreciate you guys following along and seeing what this new machine is all about.